Good to have you on International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network. International Tit-Bits is a show where we bring you news, events, and stories from across the world. Here we ensure that the real on-time news are packaged for the viewing pleasure of the people. And I have a co-anchor with me here, Anita Albari. Thank you, Anita, for joining me today on the show.
Thank you for having me too.
And you're going to our headlines. This one is coming from Niger. Junta instructs police to expel French ambassador. And coming from Burkina Faso, interim president to discuss military cooperation with Russian delegation. And from Gabon, AU hung down Gabon's membership after military coup.
And still from Gabon, Constitutional Court to swear in transitional president on Monday. And from Congo, clash between armed forces, protesters kill at least 48 people. And from Iran, man dies in jail after avoiding death sentence.
This and many more stories we will be looking at when we return from this short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now the details. Niger's military junta that seized power last month on Thursday said it has revoked the French ambassador's diplomatic immunity and instructed the police to expel him. Silva Van Leit's visa and that of his family has also been cancelled. He had been told by the juntas last Friday that he has 48 hours to leave the country in response to the action taken by the French government, which it said were contrary to the interests of Niger. But the deadline passed on Monday without Paris recalling him. French President Emmanuel Macron said on Monday that the ambassador would stay in Niger despite pressure from the military regime, and he reiterated Paris' support for Austrian democratically elected President Mohamed Bazoum. The French government said it does not recognize the coup leader as the country's legitimate rulers.
A Russian delegation held talks with Burkina Faso's interim president, Ibrahim Traoré, on Thursday at a meeting that included discussions on possible military cooperation, the Burkinabé presidency said in a statement. It said the visit led by Russian Deputy Defense Minister Yunus Bek Yevkorov was a follow-up to talks between Traoré and Russian President Vladimir Putin at the Russian-African Summit in St. Petersburg in July. The junta-led West African countries' relations with Moscow have been in the spotlight since it booted out French troops in February, fueling speculation it would deepen security ties with Russian-like neighboring Mali, where Russian Wagner mercenaries operate. The meeting addressed areas of cooperation which primarily concern the military domain, including the training of Burkinabé officer cadets and officers at all levels, including pilots in Russia, the statement said. The visit could be a further sign that Moscow is seeking to shore up its influence in Africa in the wake of the death of mercenary boss Yevgeny Prigozhin, who, through the Wagner Group, built up a network of interest across several African countries and beyond.
The African Union on Thursday suspended Gabon's membership one day after military offenders ousted President Ali Bongo, the first regional response to the 8th coup in West and Central Africa since 2020. The takeover ends the Bongo's family dignity, almost 6 decades in power, and created a new countdrum for the region hit with the waves of coup that Nigerian's President Bola Tinubu called a contagion of autocracy. Like other juntas who have stretched power in the regions, Gabon's military leaders are seeking to consolidate powers despite international condemnation. General Briggs Oligo Gonome, the coup leader and former head of the Presidential Guard, is due to be sworn in as president on Monday. My fear has been confirmed in Gabon that copycats will start doing the same thing until it is stopped. Tinubu, who's chair West Africa's main regional body, ECOWAS, said on Thursday. The African Union's Peace and Security Council made a phased move on Thursday by barring Gabon's participation in all its activities, organs, and institutions until institutional order was restored.
Gabon's new strongman, General Brice Oligui Nguema, who overthrew Ali Bongo Ondimba, will be sworn in as transitional president before the Constitutional Court on Monday, September 4th, the putschist announced on Thursday. The country's new strongman, who on Wednesday overthrew the barely re-elected President Ali Bongo Ondimba by accusing his camp of rigging the presidential election results, also announced the gradual establishment of transitional institutions and promised that the country would respect all its external and internal commitments. The president of the transition will be sworn in before the Constitutional Court on Monday, September 4th, 2023 at the presidency of the Republic, announced Colonel Henrich Mafombi, spokesman for the Committee for the Transition and Restoration of Institutions, which brings together all army commanders on state television. General Ligui also decided on the gradual establishment of transitional institutions, the duration of which was not specified, and instructed all secretaries general, ministerial cabinets, directors generals, and all those in charge of state services to ensure the immediate effective resumption of work and the continued operation of all public services, according to the spokesman. The president of the transition wishes to reassure all donors, development partners, and creditors of the states that all measures will be taken to guarantee the respect of our country's commitments, both externally and internally, concluded Colonel Mafombi.
A clash between Congolese armed forces and members of the religious sects protesting Western organizations operating in Congo killed at least 26 people, a local official said Thursday. The violence broke out early Wednesday in the eastern city of Goma, where Wazalendo followers gathered for the protest, which has been bound by the city mayor against a UN peacekeeping mission and other international organizations. They are accused of exercising colonial-like power. Protesters accused the army of faring indiscriminating with lives around on protesters, while the Congolese army said in a statement that the protesters had stoned a policeman to death. The army also said 160 people were arrested. Palosai Zimimba, a vice president of civil society in the region of North Kivu, where the conflict unfolded, said Thursday that a preliminary investigation indicated that 26 civilians were killed and at least 50 injured in the clash. Associated Press reports saw the nearby Ndosho hospital in Goma overwhelmed with injured patients.
An Iranian man has died in jail after his death sentence for taking part in anti-government protests was overturned by Iran's Supreme Court. Javad Rui was arrested last year during protests triggered by the death in custody of Mahsa Amini, who was held for allegedly wearing an improper hijab. Officials say Mr. Rui, 35, died from ineffective hospital treatment after suffering a seizure in prison. Activists are holding the authorities responsible for his death. Unfortunately, Mr. Rui died despite the actions of medical staff, and a legal case has been filed to follow up on the reason for his death, the Iranian judiciary's news website Mizan reported. However, an hour before the official announcement on Thursday, several human rights activists announced the death of Mr. Rui on social networks and accused judicial and security authorities of killing him. Mr. Rui was arrested just days after 22-year-old Mahsa Amini died in the custody of Iran's infamous morality police, triggering months of national unrest. He was found guilty of leading rioters, destroying property, and apostasy for allegedly burning a Quran during a demonstration. However, activists are currently sharing video clips from last year showing him dancing during the protest. Amnesty International says he was subjected to floggings, freezing temperatures, electric shocks, and had a gun held to his head to force him into confessing.
A deadly fire in Johannesburg, inner city, was a wake-up call for South African presidents, says President Cyril Ramaphosa. 74 people were killed, including 12 children, after a blast in a 5-story building, which was being occupied by homeless people. More than 50 others were injured. Earlier, the city of Johannesburg confirmed it owned the building, but said cartels had taken it over. Officials say the cause of the dead fire is unclear. In a news conference at the site of the fire, Mr. Ramaphosa said the incident needed to be investigated and lessons learned to prevent future tragedies. It's a wake-up call for us to begin to address the situation of housing in the inner city. The South African leader said the building used to be a home for abused women and children, but once the lease expired, it was hijacked. President Ramaphosa explained to reporters, many properties around the areas where the blaze happened has been deemed unfit to live in, yet these old blocks abandoned by their owners as city authorities, are full of families, often paying rent to criminals gang who run them. Some of those who use the buildings including undocumented migrants, mostly from other African countries. The buildings which lack running water, toilet, or illegal electricity connection are then said to have been hijacked. South Africa face a chronic housing shortage with an estimated 15,000 people estimated to be homeless in Johannesburg.
Nine soldiers were killed in a restive western region of Pakistan on Thursday after a suicide bomber rammed his motorbike into their military convoy and detonated, the army and officials said. Pakistan has witnessed a dramatic uptick in militancy since the Taliban returned to power in neighboring Afghanistan 2 years ago, with attacks spiking along border regions. A motorcycle-borne suicide bomber exploded himself in Pakistan's Banu district, 61 kilometers from the border, the army's media wing said. The rugged border region has long been a hive of militant activity, with hardline organizations such as Pakistan's homegrown Taliban group, Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, using the largely unpoliced border to evade detection and stage assaults. The suicide bomber was riding a motorcycle when he rammed his bike into a truck in a military convoy, Provincial Minister Feroz Jamal Shah told AFP. Pakistan's army said a further 5 soldiers were injured in the attack near the town of Jani Khel. However, Shah put the figure at 20. Caretaker Prime Minister Awalon Khatkar called the incident a cowardly terrorist act.
Pope Francis arrived in Mongolia on Friday to greet his tiny Catholic contingent, having earlier sent a blessing of unity and peace from his plans to China, which has had difficult relations. The 86-year-old pontiff, whose health has become more fragile in recent years, arrived at the Ulaanbaatar airport on Qatar ITA Airways plane with his large encourage and accompanying reporters. Settling in a wheelchair, Francis was pushed past row of Mongolians guardmen wearing ornate blue and red uniforms and holding flags, rivals, after he left the plane. He then exchanged some handshake before entering a car and being shrinked away. His first event in Mongolia, predominantly bourgeois country with just 1,455 Catholics, is on Saturday when he addresses government leaders and diplomatic corps. Visiting plane where the Catholics are a minority is part of France's policy of drawing attention to people and problems in what he has called the pre-patries of societies and of the world. He has not visited most of the capitals of Western Europe. As in customary, Francis issued greetings to every country he flew over on his way to Mongolia, including China, with which the Victorian has had difficult relations.
Hundreds of flights were cancelled in China's Guangdong province and Hong Kong as Super Typhoon Saola moved closer to the mainland on Friday, forcing authorities to raise a strong storm advisory and closing businesses, schools, and financial markets. 3 tropical cyclones have formed in the Northwest Pacific Ocean and South China Sea, with Saola and Haikui already labeled typhoons, while Kirogi, the most distant from land, is still classified as a tropical storm, according to weather forecasters. Saola is packing winds of more than 200 km per hour and is moving towards the coast of eastern Guangdong, the province which encompasses Hong Kong. It could be among the first 5 strongest typhoons to hit Guangdong since 1949, Chinese authorities said on Thursday as they issued their highest typhoon warning. Saola could make landfall Friday night on Saturday morning as a severe typhoon along the coast from Huidong to Taishan in Guangdong, China's National Meteorological Center said, which has kept its highest typhoon red warning in place. Hong Kong and neighboring Macau lie in the center of that coastline. Weather conditions could deteriorate rapidly as a typhoon makes landfall, the Hong Kong advisory said, adding it would consider the need to issue higher cyclone warning signals later on Friday.
Chinese President Xi Jinping is likely to skip a summit of G20 leaders in India next week. Sources familiar with the matter in India and China told reporters a development that would dash chance of a meeting there with the U.S. President Joe Biden. Jinping absent also could be as a shot at host India, according to some analysis, who sees it as a signal China is reluctant to confer influence on its southern neighbor that boasts one of the fastest growing major economies as China slows. Two Indian officials, one diplomat based in China and one official working for the government of another G20 country, said Prime Ling Jong is expected to represent Beijing at the September 9 to 10 meeting in New Delhi. Spokesperson for the Indian and Chinese foreign minister did not respond to the request for the comments. Lee is also likely to attend a summit of West and Southern Asian leaders in Jakarta, Indonesia on September 5 to 7, according to a report from the Kaido. The summit in India has been viewed as a venue for the possible meeting between Jinping and Biden, who has confirmed his attendees as the two superpowers seek to stabilize relations sourced by trade and geopolitical tensions.
U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will travel to New Delhi to participate in the G20 Leaders Summit from September 7 to 10th, making her fourth visit to India in 10 months, the Treasury Department said on Thursday. Yellen intends to focus at the summit on strengthening the global economy and supporting low- and middle-income countries by advancing efforts on debt restructuring, the evolution of multilateral development banks, and building international monetary funds, trust funds, resources, the Treasury said. She will continue to build momentum for her drive to evolve the World Bank and other multilateral lenders to boost financing capacity to aid developing countries, clean energy transitions, tackle pandemics, fragility, and conflict, it said. The Treasury estimates that the lenders collectively can unlock $200 billion in new financing over a decade, with balance sheet measures now being implemented or under discussion. The Treasury said Yellen also will rally America's G20 allies to maintain economic support for Ukraine and increase costs on Russia over Moscow's continuing war in Ukraine. This includes supporting the G7-led price cap on Russian oil exports, and efforts to strengthen global food security in the face of restrictions on Ukrainian grain exports.
The Philistine has imposed a price cap on rice as Southern Asian country grapples with some of the highest inflation in the region. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. signed as executive order capped price in light of the considerable economic strain of Filipino, particularly the underprivileged, and menaced the presidential office said on Friday. Marcos Jr. said the maximum price for regular maize rice and well-milled rice at 41 Philippine pesos per kilometers and 45 pesos per kilograms, respectively, he said in the office. Marcos' office said the alarming rise in retail price stemmed from illegal price manipulation, such as hoarding and opportunistic trading and coalition among industries cartel in light of the land cession, as well as external factors, including the war in Ukraine, India's ban on rice exports, and volatile oil price. So, Minister directed custom authorities to intensify speculation of rice warehouse to combat hoarding and illegal importation, and he ordered the competition watchdog to take action against cartels and merchants abusing their dominant market position. The inflation rate of rise in the Philippines rose from 1% in January 2022 to 4.2% in July 2023, according to the National Economic and Development Authority.
United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said on Thursday that he had sent Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov a set of concrete proposals aimed at reviving a deal that allowed the safe export of Ukrainian grain via the Black Sea. Russia quit the deal in July, a year after it was brokered by the United Nations, and Turkey complained that its own food and fertilizer exports face obstacles and that not enough Ukrainian grain was going to countries in need. Guterres later comes ahead of a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Turkish counterpart Tayyip Erdogan. Two Turkish sources told Reuters the pair will meet on Monday and primarily discuss Black Sea grain exports. The Black Sea grain deal was intended to combat a global food crisis that the United Nations said had been worsened by Russia's February 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Russia and Ukraine are both leading grain exporters. I believe we presented a proposal that could be the basis for renewal, but a renewal that must be stable, Guterres told reporters without elaborating on details of the proposal. We cannot have a Black Sea initiative that moves from crisis to crisis, from suspension to suspension. We need to have something that works and that works to the benefit of everyone, he said.
A Ukrainian government official has confirmed to the journalists that Ukraine was behind Wednesday's drone attack on a Russian airbase at Pokov. A number of Islamic transport planes were said to be damaged or destroyed. The officials from the Ministry of Defense confirmed local reports that Ukrainian military intelligence was behind the attack. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky said that the Ukrainian-made weapon has hit a target at a distance of 700 kilometers. He did not specify the weapon or the target, but the distance could correspond to the Kyiv attack. Ukraine believes that 76 planes were destroyed and 2 others damaged. Russian officials said 4 planes were damaged. The damaged aircraft and the long-range cargo planes are ideal for transporting troops and equipment over long distance and therefore variable were assets for Russia. Russia has vowed that Ukraine will not go unpunished for the attack. Ukraine's drones war on Russia is on a mostly daily occurrence. Wednesday attack at Pokov, Bainok, and elsewhere were among the most widespread so far. FL reports in Kolga and a microelectric factory in Bakhmut were competent for Russia's weapon system were also hit in those attacks. This is International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break. Welcome back. This is International Tit-Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Russian installed authorities began holding regional elections on Thursday in a part of Ukraine Russia claims as its own last year, seeking to cement Moscow's authority in what is called new authorities, despite the ongoing conflict. Russia does not fully control any of the four regions where the votes are being held: Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Along with Crimea, annexed by Moscow in 2014, they make up almost in a 50th of Ukraine. Three-quarters of countries at the United Nations General Assembly condemned that they term Russia's attempted illegal annexion of the four regions in a vote last October. Ukrainian officials say the elections are also illegal and show why it is impossible to hold any peaceful talk with Moscow until Russia withdraw all its troops from Ukrainian territory. In all four regions, Moscow handpicked governors, a mix of veteran pro-Russian politicians and others known only locally, are seeking full term of office in a polls which concludes on September 10th, when the Russians hold regional polls. The governors are all running with Russia's President Vladimir Putin endorsements, having joined the Crimean United Russia bloc with fanfare in recent months, and they face only nominal opposition. The U.S. Army has charged a military doctor with sexual misconduct, a spokesman said Thursday, in a major case that reportedly involved more than 20 alleged victims. Major Michael Stocking, as astronologist who joined the Army in May 2013 and is stationed at the Joint Base Louis McCone in the state of Washington, was charged earlier this week, Lieutenant Colonel Jennifer Bakongra said. The general nurtured all the charge include abusive sexual conduct and indecent viewing in violence of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, she said. The charge will now be reviewed for legal sufficiencies by the independent officials at the patrol preliminary hearing partisans to federal laws. The Washington Post, which faced report the Stocking was under investigation, said it could be one of the military's largest sexual abuse cases in a year, and that is involved at least 23 alleged victims. Stackham Atoms Robert Capovilla told the Post, prior to change being filled, I would simply ask that everyone simply reserve judgment until he earned the right to be heard, until the defense team is given all of the evidence, and until due process play its course. According to the Pentagon data, there were 8,942 reports of sexual assault involving military personnel as either perpetrators or victims in the fiscal year 2022, an increase of 1% from the year before. Senate Minority Leader Marge McConnell released a doctor note Thursday saying he is clear to return to work after appeared to freeze for the second time in 2 months. But that isn't satisfying Republicans who are raising concern that the McConnell R. Kelly, the longest-serving leader in Senate history, isn't being fully transparent about his health issue. If he wants to stay as a leader, he needs to be transparent and open about his current condition, says the House Republican who requested anonymity to discuss McConnell's health. The second House Republicans who is close to leadership said McConnell's 81 has a greater obligation to be forthcoming about any medical issues because of his leadership post, which allowed him to participate in classified Gang of Eight, beefing about some of most sensitive national security issues. McConnell should be more transparent by virtue of that position, and I'm not sure that that's inappropriate. A second GPO lawmaker said, I mean that the role that the leader are asked to play is a very serious calling and position, and it has an impact on all the membership. It's obviously, a proud man is being a strong leader. He reaches the position, the second lawmaker said. and people in opposition aren't up to give it up until they wheel them out. Republican Senate leader Marge McConnell is medically cleared to work. African Union on Thursday suspended Gabon's membership one day after military officials ousted President Ali Bongo, the first regional response to the 8th coup in West and Central Africa since 2020. The takeover ended the Bongo's family dignity almost 6 decades in power and created a new conundrum for the region hit with a wave of coup that Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu called a contagion of autocracy. Like other juntas who have stretched power in the region, Gabon's military leader are seeking to consolidate powers despite international condemnation. General Briggs Oligo Ugoema, the co-leader and former head of the Presidential Guard, is due to be sworn in as president on Monday. My fear has been confirmed in Gabon. The copycat will start doing the same thing until it's stopped. Tinubu, whose chair West African main regional body ECOWAS, said on Thursday. Joining me in the conversation today is Raymond Bata, an international affairs analyst. Thank you so much for joining me, Raymond.
Thank you for having me.
Now, looking at this, Ali Bongo's father ruled Gabon for 42 years, while Bongo ruled for 14 years. Yet France, AU, and ECOWAS didn't throw sanction on Gabon.
Yeah.
But just at the beginning of coup d'etat that is supposed to end the 56 years family leadership of Gabon, an international sanction is coming from the AU. What do you think these diplomatic organizations spell for Africa and their independence countries?
Francophone countries have had it very rough this period. Starting from Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, and now Gabon, they are all products of the wrong and intimidating and degrading aspect of French colonial rule. The aspect of colonial assimilation, behave like a French to be a French, and not like assisting the Africans to stand on their own, has made France to treat the Francophone countries, the Francophone African countries, like a puppet. And that is why they've not spoken up since Omar Bongo, then Ali Bongo, and almost even getting to the point where it will be the son of Omar Bongo, Valentine, is even going to receive that same privilege. Why France and other countries have not spoken all this while, even if there was illegality in the perpetration of the same family name in a democratic system, that's an autocracy. But why they didn't speak is because they are benefiting heavily from having a kangaroo administration. So if per se the coup, yes, we are not supporting the coup in Gabon, but at the same time, let us not forget the fact that France has not done well for their colonies, their former colonies in Africa.
Yeah, okay, we know that all of this has come to play, and it seems there is no going back, because I remember during when it was Niger's turn, it took about 6 to 5 or thereabout for them to for AU to finally come in to intervene to suspend them. But this one is just a matter of 3 days. Do you think that the trend of coup d'etat in Africa is capable of repositioning Africa in the right direction, or will it take Africans further deep into corruption and impoverishment?
I stand by my previous comment, like the military does not have any experience in administration of a country. The military does not have any course of study in any of their military colleges or in any of their military universities that deals with civilian administration of a country. The military should always remain in the position of internal and external security. If there has to be an intervention, it should be short and quick and also call back the democratic system that is already in place. Although it is not very, very sound as in the Ali Bongo family, but that doesn't mean that other people, other civilians are not there that can run the country very well.
You're saying that the military do not have any experience when it comes to ruling. This is not the first country, if you ask me. We have in likes of Mali and other countries that military are ruling. And of course, if you're doing something right, I should be able to come to you. I should be able to leverage on you. So don't you think if these people could stand without support of all these ECOWAS and AU and all of that, don't you think they are capable of also running their country?
I think that, first of all, we should not forget that there's already a suspension of freedom of speech in each of these countries where the military rules. There's also a suspension of freedom of association. So political parties cannot meet. Average human beings cannot sit and discuss, even in the open. And that's a stifling of primordial rights of a human being. So no matter how good the military can be, so far as you do not have any right to speak, you do not have any right to associate with who you want to associate, it should not stay for long. It should be a transitional thing. Yes, I am not saying that I do support military intrusion or intervention in running of a country, but in as much as they get involved in this stuff, it should not be more than a week before they usher in a new civilian administration to take up from where the other ones could not do better. And I also see a middle finger that Russia is trying to take over the French colonial history in Africa. Russia is now planning themselves, they are positioning themselves to be the new France in Africa. They came late during the colonization. They think that let us give them funds, let us give them resources, let us give them security, and let us support a military administration in Africa. But it's to the detriment of those African nations. No matter how good it might seem, it's a great gift. It's a gift that is given with the left and taken from the right.
Okay. For AU, do you think that AU acted very fast? And again, with this their action, does it seem that they are not willing to intervene in this military coup d'etat?
Well, with the recent coup d'etat in Niger, it's very, very shocking and alarming that not so long Gabon has fallen to that. And, you know, it's kind of been a contagion. It's like being contagious. So AU might have quickly reacted in order to stifle any other plans or any other military in any other country to do likewise. I think I heard Cameroon has now reshuffled their military and also retired some generals. The same thing happened in Rwanda. I mean, they are taking steps towards that. And, I mean, no matter how good the military system of government seems, it is not the best. It's very archaic. The world, I mean, with all the information we had at our fingertips, the military cannot be the solution right now. If not, Western Europe and Europe as a whole should have all still been military regimes.
Okay, now we have, let's go back here. Ali Bongo's father ruled for over 40-something years.
Yeah.
And then equally we have Bongo ruling for years.
Yeah.
And Ali Bongo's father was being elected. Could it be that the autocratic power give room for one to rule for that number of years without coming to intervene? Because if you look at the statistics, we know that Gabon is a small country with a very rich oil country. But we have, despite the number of persons in the country, we have people that are struggling more than those that gain, but we do not have. It's just like having we have 5 persons in the house, and the materials that we have in the house to take care of the 5 people, the things we have, is up to 10, but it's only 1 person that is benefiting from it. So do you think that the autocratic power gave room for that number of years that the number of years that one rule doesn't matter when it comes to this organization, talking about AU, talking about ECOWAS and all of those. It doesn't mean that it doesn't matter.
So I see that, first of all, those autocratic governments may be seeming like as if they are civilian because of the presence of elections, but already those elections are just to give it a seeming legality, but it is not. And secondly, there are families that are so powerful in some of these countries, have so much resources of their own, that it's very difficult for any other opposition to be able to remove them from government. Paul Biya is still president of Cameroon, going to 30 plus years. You understand? So I'm not going to give them that benefit of you're doing well, because that is not that's not a democracy. It's a civil rule, but it's an autocratic system of government, and it's not supposed to be allowed to extend that much between a father and son, and it's almost passing to the grandson. So I think that the strong families have used the system of government of autocracy, putting elections here and there to make it seem as if it's legal, it is popular, but it is not. And the general masses are in squalor. I think that such should not be encouraged for Africa. And African leaders have not done so much in giving the dividends of democracy to their populace.
So what happened to Gabon now? What happened to South Africa as a whole?
South Africa is...
I mean to say Africa.
Africa. Okay. I think that, first of all, Ali Bongo should not be killed, because you do not replace legality with illegality.
Okay.
The opposition parties in Gabon has called for continuation of the counting of the votes, and that the real winner should emerge. If it's an opposition party person, let him emerge and restate the civil rule back, but not to like go the way of Niger and like in the next 3 years, because I mean another coup could come in and that will extend to another 3 years. I mean, and it continues like that. So I think that what should be done is that the civilian structure should be replaced. Immediately should be reinvigorated. Elections, okay, they've done the elections, they should count the votes and call the real winner of the elections. And I think Ali Bongo should be retired.
And what if they do the re-election or count the votes and it still fall back on Ali Bongo?
No, Ali Bongo and his dad have done enough.
They've done enough.
Yes.
So it's not about it's not about the result. It's not about the election now. It's about him leaving the position for another person.
I do think that there are fingers of the government in the election results. If the real election results are called, I don't think Ali Bongo will win. I don't think Ali Bongo, if they allow the true votes to be counted, or if they call for another election, I don't think Ali Bongo will have that edge, because he is very unpopular. Although the people are celebrating the military, but it's not like they really like the military to be there forever.
That is the only option they have right now. Well, we saw what went on in Niger, which is still, they have not tackled it yet. And then we have another one here in Gabon. I mean, everywhere is hot. Just like you said, African leaders should go back to the drawing board and do something again. We don't just say we have a democracy in Africa and yet nothing is being done according to you. So go back to the drawing board, and so that all this won't happen again, because as it stands now, you see what has happened at Rwanda. They are seeing a shadow of this creeping into their country, and they just have to take side immediately. We wouldn't want this to continue happening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my viewers. And I still ask the same question again. Do you think that the ruling of military will bring a transformation in Africa, or do you think that it's going to worsen the situation? That is a question for you to answer. Thank you so very much for staying with us. I am Immaculata Jacob Erekana. In case you miss out in any of these stories, you can follow us on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, or you can watch us live on our website, on AtlanticNetwork.tv. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you for watching and continue to stay connected on ATM socials till we come your way next time.